I have a thought to share as well. My thought is a little bit longer this week because it falls to me to introduce really the theme of this season of What's Next. I'm talking about the big idea that is going to run through the entire season, and it can be summed up in two words that you've already heard: the great redesign. But what do I mean? What do we mean by the great redesign? Well, back when the pandemic struck early in the year, we asked ourselves if this moment would be a pause or a great reset. If you can cast your mind back that long, it feels a long time ago. And what did we mean by that? We meant, is this a pause before the restart of life, the restart of culture, the restart of business, of everything as usual? Or is it going to be a massive reset that's going to bring huge change? Now, that is a big question. And of course, we still don't know the answer. But here's the thing: what if pause or reset is not the best framework to understand this moment? What if there's a better way of thinking about it? Well, we think there is. And in this season, we're going to argue that there is a better way to think about it. What if this moment is not a pause or a reset, but rather the chance for a great redesign? Now, that can sound like a subtle shift in thinking, but it's also a huge shift, because when you think about a redesign, you know that that's not a passive process. A redesign is something we have to do, and it's something we have to do together. So that's a framework that immediately forces us to ask, what should we be doing now to build the world we want? Like, we know tons of spheres of human life are up in the air right now. We've all read and we've heard and we've listened so much about it: education, travel, work, retail, cities. It's all up in the air. So what needs to be done, and how can we do it? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for your business? What does it mean for your individual career, your journey? These are the kinds of questions we're going to be looking at this season, and we have a lot of thinking to share. I want to share my own vision of the great redesign, or at least one aspect of it. And that's a thought that taps into a fundamental aspect of how we shape the decades ahead. And in that way, I hope it lays the groundwork for some of the ideas that you're going to hear through this season. Because my thought fundamentally is about power. It's about how we humans need to come together and reclaim power over our shared future. Now, we all know that power is a necessary part of our lives. Unless you're an anarchist, you believe that it is necessary for there to be power in the world, for some people to have power over others. And without that, there'd just be chaos and it will be bad. But we also know that power in the 21st century, in the 2020s, who has it, how it's used, how it's expressed, all those things are changing. And that was true before the pandemic. It's happening in all kinds of ways. But there's one particularly important way. There's one particularly important new form of power that I just want to think about for a minute, and that is algorithmic power. Algorithmic power is a new form of power that is haunting ever more of our lives, and it does that in all kinds of interesting ways. So we all know that big tech, Facebook, Twitter, takes our personal data and it funnels it through algorithms and creates models of each of us that are used to predict our preferences and predict our future behaviors. So algorithms decide which products are suggested to you, which music is suggested to you, and so on. But it's not just about your consumption. Increasingly, algorithms are playing a part in the public space as well, and they're playing a part in government. Like right here in the UK, just a few months ago, there was a big scandal because the government tried to use an algorithm to decide the exam results of our school leavers. They couldn't take their exams because of the pandemic, so the government tried to give them their exam results using an algorithm. And what the algorithm ended up doing is upgrading students who went to expensive private schools and downgrading students who went to ordinary schools or lived in poorer areas. And there was a huge scandal about that, and they had to throw the algorithm away and start again. And that's just one tiny signal of what lies ahead. We're going to see algorithmic power and algorithmic decision making weaving its way through our lives in all kinds of interesting ways. And there's one big idea about algorithms that's become perhaps the most powerful idea about our shared future and about power recently. And this is the idea that algorithms will know us better than we know ourselves. Okay, it's been made popular by the superstar futurist Yuval Harari. He says we're going to move into a world where algorithms know us better than we know ourselves. And Yuval Harari thinks that that is a huge problem, because he thinks in that world, people will be tempted to hand ever more of their decision making over to algorithms. And he thinks that in the end, they'll hand over the most important decision that we in democratic societies take to algorithms. They'll hand over their vote to algorithms. They'll think this algorithm knows me and my life and my preferences even better than I know them myself. So why should I vote? Why don't I let an algorithm vote on my behalf? Or even better, why don't I let an algorithm be the leader and make the decisions? Why don't we let algorithms run our government? So this is a very powerful vision of a kind of tech-fueled future that's become very popular recently. And Harari thinks this could be a fatal challenge to liberal democracy. He thinks there may be no answer to this challenge, but I think there is an answer. I think there is an answer. And to establish that answer, we just have to look very quickly at what we mean when we say algorithms will know us better than we know ourselves. And really what we mean is algorithms will know our likes, our dislikes, our interests, our purchasing history, our listening history on Spotify, our online behaviors, and they'll use that to create models of us that are very successful when it comes to predicting our future behavior. Okay, so why then in that world should you not let an algorithm vote on your behalf? There is an answer to the question. And the answer is because you have a vision of the collective good, of a good for all of us, for all people, that is more than simply a collection of your preferences and your likes and your dislikes as you've expressed them on the internet. Okay, an authentic political vision is more than just a set of likes and dislikes. It has to be informed by a true ethical vision of the human good life and what is good for human beings. And that kind of vision transcends the kind of likes and dislikes and preferences that you are able to express online. Sometimes you have a vision of the good life, of what is good for human beings. That means you have to do things that are not among your preferences, things that are difficult, things that are maybe dangerous, things that feel painful. You know, they might be part of your ethical vision of what you need to do to make a better life for all of us. Okay, that is the answer to the challenge of algorithmic power. The reason this idea of algorithms knowing us better than we know ourselves feels so powerful at the moment is because we lack those kinds of visions of the good life. We lack those ethical visions of what human beings are and how they should live their lives. Okay, and we need to create those visions anew. We need to create compelling new narratives of our future and of the kind of future that human beings should live in. And those kinds of visions, no algorithm can understand them. No algorithm can process them. And they're not simply to do with your likes, your dislikes, your preferences. They transcend that. They're higher than that. Only human beings can make those visions and understand those visions. So that's what we need. And I hope that's something of what we'll hear about in this season. And I really think it is. What are human beings? What is the good life for a human being and a collection of human beings? And how do we create compelling visions and stories of how we move towards that? That will mean new kinds of lives for us, new kinds of culture, new kinds of business. New kinds of business for all of us, new kinds of business for you, because businesses and business professionals have to play a role in creating these visions.